Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at True Believers King in Black Valkyrie, number 1. This is a 2021 True Believers reprint issue that reprints Avengers number 83 from the 1963 series. This issue was written by Roy Thomas, art by John Buscema, inks by Tom Palmer, letters by Herb Cooper, edited by Stan Lee. Wasp returns to Avengers Mansion only to stumble into a secret meeting by Black Widow, Medusa, Scarlet Witch, and the Valkyrie. Now, Valkyrie goes over her origin real quick before complaining how the men get more press coverage, they get more bylines, and more credit than the women. And of course, this comes at a time when most of the Avengers, the male members, are off at a parade in Rutland, Vermont. Now, over in Rutland, there is this scientist from Miskatonic University named Dr. T.W. Irwin, who has made this contraption that will allow you to go to parallel times and spaces, and he's got that in the parade for some unknown reason. Well, the Avengers are there to protect the man because there were tips coming in that something funny's going off, and sure enough, the Masters of Evil, who recently escaped a stint in jail, are in fact in town. Now, they escaped back in issue 55, led by Claw, so they are up to no good, of course, and the heroes are fighting them. Well, the ladies show up just in time to intervene and help out nobody. So they start taking on their own side as well as the Masters of Evil. Thankfully, one member of the team is able to see through the ruse that's really going on and breaks the spell that's over the ladies, because it turns out they recognize the men aren't entirely male chauvinist pigs as stated several times throughout the book, but in fact there is a more nefarious thing going on, and the Valkyrie is not who she claims to be. Overall, it's a good self-contained story. Unfortunately, some of the dialogue is massively dated. There's a lot of cultural references and vocal idioms that just aren't used anymore. The way people talk has changed significantly. It was trying too much to be hip with the kids and use a lot of slang of the modern era of 1963. Something that goes on still in comics, unfortunately, and that really dates it because some of the jargon you'd almost need to look up if you weren't familiar with the 60s. Overall, the art is really solid, and I didn't have any major complaints about it. I thought the chauvinism angle was pretty ludicrous by today's standards, and there is this stupid little disclaimer that the comic is presented as originally created. It contains outdated depictions. The women on the team are treated pretty much as equals. Every now and then somebody will make a offhanded comment that by modern standards would be deemed sexist, but it really doesn't happen to the level that even this comic portrays back then. I thought it was a bit over the top with the male chauvinist pig thing. That's not even a phrase that's really used much anymore, but it turned out that that was part of a clever ruse anyway to turn the women against the men. So I guess the real lesson of this book is don't necessarily trust somebody's propaganda. But it was an interesting story. It wasn't the greatest thing I've ever read, but it's not the worst either. And by today's standards, it is a little bit woke, but the message at the end was really that you should learn to get along and respect each other. So the message overall was good. So I didn't hate it. I'd recommend it. I wouldn't pay more than a couple bucks for it, but it was worth reading. Since it does reprint a very old issue of the Avengers, it's a lot cheaper to buy the reprint than it is to buy the original. So I'd recommend doing it that way, especially because as far as this era goes, this is a weaker book, but it's still worth a read. That'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.